Hi class, today we are on Saxon Math Book 4, Lesson 95, and today we're going to be doing two-step word problems about a fraction of a group. So Saxon has a very specific way that they want you to draw a diagram for these types of problems, and that's going to follow you throughout 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade at least. My oldest is in 9th grade, and I know she is still expected to draw these types of diagrams for certain problems that she does. So, very important foundational skill here. Make sure that you can't just answer the problem, but you also understand the diagram drawing that we're going to get into right now. There were 30 campers in the state park. 2/3 of them wore green jackets. How many campers wore green jackets? So we know 2/3, let me switch markers. This black one doesn't like me very much. 2/3 of the campers wore green jackets. So 2/3 of 30 campers. So here's the diagram. They want you just to make a very simple rectangle and then break it into however many pieces we need for this problem. In this case, it's thirds. So I'm going to split my rectangle into thirds. And then I need to figure out if I have a total of 30 inside this rectangle, how many will be in each third? Well, I do that by dividing 30 divided into 3 equal groups. 30 divided by 3 is 10, so I'm going to have 10 campers in each group. And if I have to figure out what 2/3 of them are, I'm going to look at just that section, which is a total. Here, I could shade it in as well. That's a total of how many campers? 10, 20. So 20 campers wore green jackets. And there's our answer. It's not too tough. Just make sure that you're doing these diagrams when the book says, draw a diagram to solve this problem. Okay? Example 2 says the force of gravity on Mars is about 2/5 of the force of gravity on Earth. A rock brought back to Earth from Mars weighs 50 pounds. How much did the rock weigh on Mars? So we need to figure out what is 2/5 of 50 pounds. Once again, we're going to draw our diagram. We just make a rectangle. But this time, look at my denominator. I'm dividing it into fifths. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal pieces. I have to split these 50 pounds evenly into my 5 equal groups. Well, 50 divided by 5, again, is 10. So I'm going to have 10 pounds in each of my fifths. And now I'm figuring out what is 2/5. So that's going to just be the top two there, or I could shade them in. But 2/5 is going to be 10, 20 pounds. Just like that. Those are the only examples. So let's go ahead and do these lesson practice problems together. I will read it twice. I want you to pause the video and try to answer it on your own, and then hit play so that we can go over the answer together. Okay, so problem A. These are also on page 604 if you want to look at them in your own book. Problem A, first of all, the directions say diagram each problem. That means draw that rectangle and figure out the fraction. Then answer the question. So, 3/4 of the 24 checkers were still on the board. How many checkers were still on the board? Once again, it says 3/4 of the 24 checkers were still on the board. How many checkers were still on the board? So I'm going to write down some information here. 3/4 of 24 checkers. Pause here, draw your diagram, see if you can figure it out on your own. All right, so we want to start out with a rectangle. I'm dividing it into 4 equal pieces. And then I have to split my 24 checkers evenly among these 4 pieces. So 24 divided by 4, that's going to be 6 checkers in each box. And now I need to know what is 3/4 of them. So I'm just going to count 3 boxes. Shade them in there. So I could count by 6s, or I could figure out what 6 times 3 is. Either way, I'm going to get 18 checkers. Right there. Okay? Problem B. I'll read it twice, and then I want you to try to answer it on your own. 2/5 of 30 students studied more than 1 hour for a test. How many students studied for more than 1 hour? Once again, it says 2/5 of 30 students studied more than 1 hour on a test. How many students studied for more than 1 hour? Pause here, try that one on your own. All right, we're going to draw our rectangle. Look at the denominator. We're splitting it up into fifths. And I have to split my 30 students evenly among my fifths here. 30 divided by 5 is 6. So I have 6 students in each section. And I need to know how many 2/5. So that's going to be those 2 right here. 6, 12, 12 students studied for more than 1 hour on the test. Okay, problem C. The force of gravity on Mercury is about 1/3 the force of gravity on Earth. How much less would a tire weigh on Mercury if it weighs 42 pounds on Earth? Would the mass be the same? Why or why not? So we'll talk about that one after. Let's read the math part first. The force of gravity on Mercury is about 1/3 the force of gravity on Earth. How much less would a tire weigh on Mercury if it weighs 42 pounds on Earth? This one's tricky, so try it. Come back to me when you're ready to see the answer. Okay, we're going to start with figuring out what is 1/3 of 42. So, draw my rectangle, split it into thirds. I have to divide 42 by 3. That might be kind of tricky. Let's write it down over here. 3 goes into 4 one time. Do my subtraction, bring down my 2. 3 goes into 12 4 times. So we're going to have 14 pounds on each here. And 1/3 is going to be this one right here. However, the question says, how much less does the tire? Yeah, a tire. How much less does a tire weigh? So if it's 42 pounds on Earth and it's 14 pounds on Mercury, how much less? We have to subtract now. So this is even more of a multi-step problem. So I'm going to subtract it, and then I'm going to show you a trick. So we need to do 42 minus 14. I have to borrow, and I get 28 pounds. Here's the trick. this was the whole thing, right? So this one that I shaded is how much the tire weighs on mercury. So these two are going to be the difference. So I could have just added 14 plus 14. I still would have gotten 28 pounds. You can continue subtracting. You'll still get the same answer on this type of question. Or you can use my little trick of going, well, this is the whole thing. So the difference would be the couple pieces that I didn't shade. Okay? And then would the mass be the same? So the difference between weight and mass is just how much space something takes up, versus weight is how hard gravity has to pull you to Earth. So the tire is going to take up the same amount of space, so its mass won't change, only the weight changes because gravity has to work harder here on Earth than it does on Mercury. And I kind of answered D for you. It said explain the difference between weight and mass. So I think you should explain it back to me or back to your homeschool teacher. And then have them tell you if they agree or disagree with you. That is the end of our lesson. It's time for you to do written practice, which begins on page 604 of your textbook. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again soon.